Ray Liotta has been one of Hollywood's go-to actors for over 40 years, and in this episode, we're going to share a few of our favorite performances from the late actor. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff, and Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to this very special episode of the 3324 podcast. Dean Legiro here with you as always, and Eric here with us as always as well. We come
Hello. How are you?
Like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, here we are. Memorial Day. I got my Jaws T-shirt on. Haven't
Is it
watched it
Memorial
yet.
Day? Is that what today is? Depends
well,
on when somebody's listening to it. Could be 4th of July today, depending on, especially
I
with the
guess it all
Jaws
depends.
T-shirt.
Well, this is when we're recording it. Let's put it that way.
Memorial
I don't know.
Day.
Yeah,
We took time off. We put the hot dogs and hamburgers away, shut the grill down.
that's right.
Finished the macaroni salad, and came up and we're recording.
Yep.
Festivities
Didn't even have a lot of beer. Just maybe one or two.
I understand you totally left your barbecue. Didn't even tell anybody. You just
That's right.
walked away and came up here, which is exactly what I did to my family too. So we're of the same ilk.
Yeah.
Because we have priorities, and our priority is delivering what we feel is the best in music and movie podcasting to you each and every week. So you can find us on social media at 3324 podcast on Facebook and Instagram. So go there. A lot of fun, a lot of great stuff. If you're listening to us on Spotify, on your mobile device, you can go in and give us a rating of 5 stars.
Yeah.
Why not? I think
Give
5
us
is
that
a
5-star rating. Dean wants that 5-star rating.
I don't want it.
We don't mess
We
around.
need it. You need us on that Spotify app.
Okay. That's your Jack. Are you
That's
bringing
part of
Jack
it.
back?
Thank you. You got it. See, it works. Sometimes it works, right?
I know what you're doing. Hey, convince me.
Don't let the other guests influence you that my impressions are not good.
I never see.
They're
for the
okay.
record-
They're
For the
mediocre.
record, I never said anything. I never said.
But you laughed. I saw you on camera laughing at me.
I always laugh. If I'm not laughing, I'm crying. What do you
laugh too? So we've got a very special episode. We're not going to be talking about a particular movie or a particular album for the whole show. We lost one of the great actors of our time.
Yeah,
Ray Liotta, and one of our favorite actors, I believe, as
absolutely.
well. We had already done an episode of Goodfellas, so we're not going to talk really about Goodfellas that much, if at all. You can go back and reference that episode, and we spent a lot of time with a lot of great guests chatting about that. So what we want to do, Eric and I, we picked just like 3 of our favorite films. It's not like a top 3. We're not going to do it that way. We just want to kind of talk about some of our favorite performances from Ray Liotta and really kind of honor his legacy, because he is and he was so much more than Goodfellas. Goodfellas was, is an iconic movie for any actor that, that's in that. And it casts a big shadow.
it really does.
Just because of its impact and its legend and mythos or whatever it is only grows as the years go on, and its reverence and its influence continues. And Ray Liotta was so much more than that. He really was. And when you look at his filmography, he actually really kind of took steps to not become that pigeonholed actor, because you make a movie like Goodfellas, you can pretty much write your ticket doing other mob knockoff movies, mob comedies, right? You see a lot of those actors whenever there's a mobster, even if it's in a comedy, they use them like Analyze This. You can probably build a career on that, and a lot of those guys do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Ray Liotta really was truly an actor who was always looking to do different things, so many different genres, that he just put himself out there. And not only, a lot of his movies were not big movies, and a lot of them were not big box office films.
Right.
But he was great. He dedicated himself to each role no matter what. And that was the thing. He wasn't a paycheck actor, even though he was very prolific. He wasn't a paycheck actor, I don't think.
No, that's not to say that, he's done, because I suppose because of the strength of Goodfellas, but that's not to say that he didn't do a lot of those type of roles, but some of those, performances are movies that we really are not that familiar with. I know he's done a lot of that kind of stuff in the later years. And, so perhaps that was like studios coming to him and saying, hey, look, here it is. Here's a paycheck or something, like
Well, it was
at that point in time.
We talked about it before we went on, right? The proliferation of streaming,
right,
and different platforms and services kind of just opened up the opportunities for actors. You didn't have to wait for like a big Hollywood budget
right.
film because the business changed. So yeah, if you look at his filmography, like 2005 past, it's a lot of stuff you probably never heard of, but that's just because these movies didn't need big distribution, like how like I said, the business changed.
It did
on the whole. It became a different thing.
And
where that used to be frowned upon. It used to be frowned upon doing direct to video or doing this, and no, it just became. This is how the business is now.
Yeah, I mean, I myself, I have to admit, there were a few roles of movies that he was in that I kind of just ignored because I figured, well, yeah, he's playing yet another convict or another, or he is a gangster or he's a crooked cop, but he always came at it with a different angle. He always tried to find a different point of view, and I realized that in some of the performances that we'll be talking about, I'm sure.
Okay. Let me give a little small biography, just kind of set everybody up, and then we'll kind of, I think we'll kind of roll off our film. We pick three. We'll kind of just go, we'll see if there's anything that matches, and then we'll kind of talk about those, and then we'll go through the other ones. So he was born Raymond Allen Liotta in Newark, New Jersey, December 18th, 1954. He was actually left abandoned at an orphanage, and he was adopted when he was 6 months old. And he also has an adopted sister, Linda. In the 2000s, he did go seek out his natural parents and found out that there were other siblings that he had there. He eventually attended the University of Miami, graduated in 1978, and then decided to, he was doing some acting there, moved back to this area, but he moved to New York City. And then his first real jobs or his first real work was, of course, if you're in New York, where do you start? You start on a soap opera.
Yeah.
And he was on Another World. And I don't mean a different planet, but the soap opera Another World, which back in the 80s, like soap operas were everything. Like there was every channel, every station had 3 or 4 different soaps.
Yep.
And Another World was one of those big ones. So he was on that. He did some other, there was actually a TV series of Casablanca with David Soul, and he was
that's right.
He played the role of Sasha, and it only ran for, it was like they filmed 5 episodes and it ran for 3 before they pulled it, and then they showed the other 2. So
bad idea.
He probably thought then, oh wow, I got a series, I got a primetime thing, Casablanca. David Soul back then, still Starsky and Hutch. He was kind of a big TV name, and it takes place like a year before the film Casablanca, so it's kind of like a prequel. And 3 episodes in, they dump it.
Yeah, it wasn't a very. As I recall, I think I watched maybe the first episode. I was
toss it.
I was done. I was like, this is not a good idea.
Scatman Crothers in the role of Sam. It's just kind of David Soul. Nothing against David Soul, but he's no Bogart. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, night and day. He's just he doesn't fit the bill. I'd rather see Ray Liotta play. Play Ray. I can see it.
I can't picture.
See it.
I can't picture Humphrey Bogart singing "Don't Give Up on Us, Baby." So that's a little deep cut for the David Soul fans. But so you posted on our social media, on our Facebook page yesterday, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
That you usually watch a Criterion film, where you try to each Sunday try and pick something, and you put it up there. And yesterday's choice was Something Wild.
That's right.
I don't mean that the movie was Something Wild, but that's the title of the film. Something Wild, which was directed by Jonathan Demme. Is that one of the roles is that one of the films you chose?
It is.
Okay,
so that's why I didn't really have much to say about it. Usually I write a little something about the film,
You're saving it for this.
I'm saving it for this. So I just put for Ray, and it definitely came to mind because it's one of his first roles.
Yeah.
First film roles.
Yeah.
And I think the story went that he knew Melanie Griffith. They had gone into acting, they were in acting classes together and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. A lot of their, like, the circle of friends that he had kind of pushed him into, you should do that role. And he's
Mhm.
just like, yeah, but they got somebody else already. I don't want to get the role because I know Melanie Griffith,
Yeah.
because she apparently had some pull in
Mhm.
the film. Like, she talked to Jonathan Demme. She wasn't getting along. I think she had like a personal history with the guy that actually was cast
Mhm.
as Ray Sinclair, who was, who was her ex-husband and who was also an ex-con, and so a real tough guy. Um, and so, yeah, so she talked to Jonathan Demme, and he came in for an audition, and the rest is history. And he goes, yeah, that's how I got that one. But I that's a quirky little movie from '86.
Yeah. I
It's
remember I saw it on VHS. I didn't see it in the theater, but I did
yeah,
rent it when it after it came out.
right.
I remember being terrified by him. Like,
He's intense. He's
yeah,
intense.
I was like, "What the hell is up
Yeah,
with this guy?" Like, especially with Jeff Daniels, who's playing a real lightweight in
it
the
is.
film. So
You
anything
know,
heavier than that is also going to bring a lot more weight to it.
Well, it kind of reminds me of another film, After Hours. It's kind of like that weird sort of like surreal circumstances that this
Mhm.
guy, he's kind of like his wife had left him. He's kind of lost in his job. He's, and this girl, like, he meets this girl in a diner, and she decides to take him on this road trip, and it's like a wild ride, and he's just so oblivious and naive, and it just gets crazy. And it's supposed to be a comedy, I guess. But by the end of the thing, you're like,
Yeah, and
what
then
the
Ray
hell's
Liotta
going
comes
on?
in as
Ray
the
Liotta. I mean, yeah,
ex-husband, or
when he
uh,
shows up, forget about all like everything changes. It's like a completely different.
yeah, it's just
You
like
know,
the menace and the threat
well, but
is
Ray Liotta. But
is
the
there.
thing of it is that he's funny. He's charming. Like my wife
Yeah,
Kim, we were watching it, and she's like, I hate this guy, but I love him because he's Ray Liotta. Like,
yeah,
no matter what he done, he's such a scumbag, but you love him. Like, you
yeah.
just,
And it
and
should be a
yeah,
throwaway. It should be a throwaway role. It really could be someone that's
exactly.
forgettable.
Could have been anybody, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
could be just like, Robert Davi or one of those character actors that you kind of throw in, like when you want
exactly. Yeah.
the built-in menace. But he's got that, like you said,
Oh,
he's got that likable face, but then he can also kind of turn on you.
but there's the
You
scene
know?
with the girl. Like, there's like this young girl that in a gift shop that he charms to help him out. At one point, you think he's being real sleazy with her. He probably did
Mhm.
something with her, but they don't show it. But it's that kind of thing where it's like she's taken in by him because he's just, he's got the looks, he's got the charm, but he's
He's a
ruthless.
dirtbag.
He's just a scumbag. And oh my god! And by the end of it, and it just gets violent.
Yeah.
What, I don't want to, give too much away. I mean, I would recommend this movie for
Yeah.
sure. If
Yeah,
anybody
and there's a
hasn't seen it, check
great
it
scene
out.
when
But
they're in the diner.
yeah, oh
With
yeah,
with the cop, when the
with the
cops are in
cop.
the
Yep,
diner, and
yep,
and Jeff Daniels kinda is finally asserting some
yeah.
control, and he's like, "Well, I'm sure that car out there is hot,
I
and
want,
you've
yeah.
got
I'm in.
multiple concealed weapons on you," and meanwhile, and there's like cops sitting at like a booth, and
Right.
he's like,
He's like,
"Hey,
I want
hey,
Lulu.
officer."
I want to take her. He's like, oh, is
Yeah,
that the name you're using this
yeah,
week? And, like, and his
yeah.
laugh. He's already got
He's
that.
always got that laugh.
He's always got that. He's already has that. He already had that Henry Hill laugh, like Charlie. I was like, oh, I'm dying.
Yeah.
Because
You know what it reminded me of when I thought about, I was thinking about it earlier. I was thinking about like people, like actors that kind of get that opportunity and make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think who I think he set the standard for, but I think what a good match is Brad Pitt in Thelma and Louise. Right?
Yes.
It was a
Yes.
throwaway. It was a throwaway role. It was like a small thing, but Brad Pitt was so impactful in it
Yeah.
that people, like a lot of people were like going to the film, whatever. But everybody was talking about Brad Pitt in this very small role, and I think it's the same thing. I think it was like Ray Liotta kind of
Oh,
did the
most
same
definitely.
thing
Yeah.
earlier, where he made a smaller role that is not a bit filled by a big star, but comes in and just really makes a big impression that they're like, wow, holy crap.
But I'm confident, and I'm sure that this role got some attention
Oh,
from
absolutely.
other direct. I mean, I'm sure Martin Scorsese had seen this film, and as a matter of fact, here's a fun fact. They wanted, I believe that they wanted to get Scorsese to direct it, but he was doing After Hours at the time. So that's a little ironic to me, but it's just
very
kind of
similar.
cool. But hey, he probably
Yeah,
saw
it's
the
quirky,
film, but
film.
he, that performance, I think, got him some pay dirt, as it were.
Yeah, well, it was
some really, really great roles to come. So
yeah, it was his second feature film. Then he did a short film. Then he did a film called Dominic and Eugene, which I had seen years ago when it was out. That was him and Tom Hulce. Then we get to 1988. I'm sorry, we get to 1989.
Mm-hmm.
Is this on your list for performances? Field of Dreams is my first one.
It's not, actually.
I wrote down. Okay.
I was thinking about it, but I figured,
Field of Dreams is just an amazing film, and he's not in it a lot, but he's in it enough. And I watched all the 3 films I picked. I watched over the weekend. I actually wanted to revisit each one and kind of give it the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The first thing I noticed in Field of Dreams is actually the credits. They're going through, starring Kevin Costner, They go through everybody. And then after that, then they say, and Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
And Burt Lancaster. And that's usually reserved for like a bigger actor. Like, I think like in Pulp Fiction, they go through all the things and then they say, and Bruce Willis. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's usually reserved for a bigger actor. I don't understand how Ray Liotta got the billing of and Ray Liotta, because this was only his 4th film and the first 3 weren't big roles. Right.
But he was that intensity, like that, somebody definitely noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they originally wanted, he plays Shoeless Joe Jackson. If you haven't seen Field of Dreams, we'll probably do an episode at some point. And it's a fantasy. It's definitely a guy's tearjerker film,
Yeah.
It's the one that guys love because it's about dads, it's about baseball, and it's about fantasy. So he's got kind of a tough job as an actor to play somebody that's not real, but is in a real world, but doesn't really know what is going on as well. Because as Shoeless Joe Jackson, he's a ghost and he comes out from the cornfield. And I got a fun fact for you: is actually Shoeless Joe Jackson was batted left-handed.
Yes.
And it always bothered Ray Liotta. And this is how much of an actor he was. It bugged him because he got with a lot of baseball trainers, but he just could not make the switch over to left-handed batting. So that, it's fine. Yeah. They're like, what, just do it right-handed. It's fine. But, obviously people are going to give you crap about it. But it always bugged him as an actor because he wanted that authenticity. He wanted it to be as it was, He goes, and then there's the great scene when he first comes out of the corn and Costner's first trying to hit some balls, and then he's pitching to him. And there's a scene from behind home plate where Costner pitches to Ray Liotta and hits a line drive, almost hits Costner, hits like the bag of balls. And that was unscripted. They left that in, and Costner just got up and kind of continued acting,
Yeah.
So that was, and you, like you said, the Ray Liotta laugh shows up in this one too.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, we're going to ask Ty Cobb, but none of us could stand the son of a bitch when he's alive. He's got that. So he could do it all. Like, and that was the thing too, is they wanted him for this movie because he brings that ambiguity of is Shoeless Joe a nice guy? Is he a mean guy?
Yeah.
Ray Liotta can kind of trot that line.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil Robinson was like, like you mentioned, like he's like, I want to do this. I want to, switch, my batting stance and all that. He goes, yeah, Shoeless Joe ain't going to come back from the dead and walk out of a field. Don't worry about it. Like, so I thought that was funny. But here's another fun fact: he's never seen the film Ray Liotta. He had never seen it.
Wow.
I think he had taken his mom to see it, and she got sick. I think she was really ill at the time, and they left the theater, and he never watched it ever since.
Wow.
He says it's a very personal decision why I don't want to visit this film, and he didn't elaborate, but apparently, yeah. And he didn't even he was even skeptical of the script. I think he was just kind of like, this is really silly.
Yeah, and on its face, it is. Yeah, if you describe it to somebody. That's exactly a baseball field, and these guys come out from the corn, and then a writer gets kidnapped, and it's pure fantasy. But when you're watching it, it just the way it unfurls in front of you, and
it's a great film. I love the sentimentality. I love the story. Yeah. It's just a really great tall tale.
Yeah, just how they talk about the love. When Ray Liotta
Of course, the love of the game. Yeah.
is saying those lines, he goes, "Did you ever hold a baseball to your face or the glove to your face and smell it?"
The romance of it. Yeah,
Yeah, like
absolutely.
he really delivers that. He goes, "I would have played for
Yeah.
nothing." He
Yep.
really kind of he anchors that character as not just a Casper. He's like, "Oh, Casper, like a ghost."
Yeah.
He brings life to that, to that character, and how, there was 8 of us. Is it okay if they come as well?
Yeah.
So there is that, it's lighthearted, but it is dramatic as well. And Ray Liotta kind of dances that line,
How could you not do a film with James Earl Jones and Burt Lancaster? I mean, come on, it's like,
and that was
he's
Lancaster's last film, I think. And Lancaster had to be proud.
Yeah.
I think he turned it down, and someone said, "You got to do this film." Like,
he was so good in it. Like the thing, it's like he gave. Oh, it's such a heart. It's a
hot dog
really
stuck in her throat.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know if, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it's a movie that like I said, it's a kind of like it's a wonderful, it's like a Capra movie, kind of Capra-esque, like that. Yes, is it corny? Sure. But you get something out of it. It's one
At
of the
end,
great positive.
there's not a dry
films.
eye in the theater. We won't give it away if you've never seen it, but there's not a dry eye at the end, especially if you're a guy. It's definitely a guy. It's gonna pull a guy. Guys that don't cry. It's gonna extract a single tear from you.
Yeah,
it'll definitely do it. So yeah, the Field of Dreams was one of mine. Like I said, a short. It's not a cameo, but he definitely has some impact there.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you have? I have one. My other 2 films that I picked were from the 90s. So
yeah, I have one from 2001, and it's Blow. With Johnny Depp.
He was very prolific that year. In the year he did Blow, he also did Hannibal.
Yeah.
Right? Where Anthony Hopkins ate his brains.
Ray Liotta's eating his own brain.
and he was still like awake for it.
Yeah.
Then he did Heartbreakers, which was a comedy with Gene Hackman and
That's
Sigourney
right.
Weaver.
Yep.
Then he did Blow with Johnny Depp.
Yeah. And this was a really great performance because it calls back to De Niro's Bronx Tale, in the sense where he plays Johnny Depp's dad. And Johnny Depp plays, he plays George Young. Is it Young? Is it pronounced Young or Jung? I forget. But and he plays his dad, and all he ever wants is to, he wants the best for his son. And he's a hardworking guy. He's a tough guy. I mean, he's got that, that swagger. He's got the bravado. He's, but you could definitely tell he's worked his ass off just to give him a good life. And he becomes like one of the biggest, drug dealers in
America. It's based on a true story as well.
On a true story. Yeah. It's like taking his stuff right out of South America, and he's filthy rich, and he's, the performance is just so, he has that one scene where he's in the parking lot and he's got all his cars and he's walking with him. He's like, it's not the life I would have chosen for you, but who am I? Like he's trying to say something there. I guess he's, in a way he's impressed. He's trying to tell him he's proud of him, but I guess, but on the other hand, it's like he's disappointed at the same time because you're a drug dealer, But yeah, it's a very understated performance, but it's just really one that is just, it shows the, like I said, like that he still has that toughness to him, and there's just no BS with him. It's like that kind of guy, like the way he is, but he had a hard life. Yeah. And he just wants the best for his son, but not like this necessarily. But, it's just, and again, another film that comes to mind, it was Catch Me If You Can. Yep. Remember with Chris Walken was like that type of, he was, where you going tonight? Where you going? Yeah. It's heartbreaking, as a father.
Fell into a bucket of cream.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to see though, because, you're, as a father, you want the best for your kids, and
he knows what his son is.
Exactly. And it's tough. It's a tough call.
Yeah. So that was a really good film.
Yeah.
I saw that back.
But again, that to me was like, at that point it was Scorsese, and then of course, also Tarantino were making all these kinds of films were coming out. So to me, it kind of had like the the effect of Goodfellas and, those,
Yeah. Well, for
types
Johnny
of
Depp too. I mean, that
stigma.
was in
Yeah.
Depp's
Yeah.
prime era of before he started doing all the Pirates films. He was still doing a lot of these quirky,
Right. Yeah.
Fear and Loathing and all this other stuff. And Blow was just another one in those lines of choices that he was making.
Probably one of his, I mean, even though he's, it's kind of crazy, his lifestyle that he's leading, but it's still one of his straighter roles. Like he's not like in, a lot of makeup and,
no mad hat or makeup. And ironically enough, Blow was directed by Ted Demme, which is Jonathan Demme's brother.
Actually,
right? Is it brother or cousin?
No, I think it was his nephew.
Nephew?
Yeah, his nephew.
So who Jonathan Demme directed Ray Liotta in Something Wild.
And Ted Demme passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Before Jonathan Demme, which was
very young. Yeah, he passed away quite
very
young.
Very young. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what I liked, another film that I liked was did you ever see Karina?
From
1994.
I know the
Whoopi
film, but I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
And that's the thing is in the 90s, like I said, he was doing such different thing. He was just like different I had to be doing it on purpose. He was just taking, one movie he plays a doctor, then he does No Escape, where he's like on a planet in prison, and then he does Karina in 1994 with Whoopi Goldberg and Tina Majorino, who you may remember from from Waterworld.
Mm-hmm.
She was the kid with the map on her back.
Yes.
And this is kind of it takes place in the 50s. And Ray Liotta, his wife dies, who's Tina Majorino's mother. So that and Ray Liotta is a jingle writer. So you get to hear Ray Liotta sing because he's got to write. He writes jingles. So it's kind of like Mad Men before Mad Men. So he's got to write one for Jell-O. So part of it is him coming up with the jingle for Jell-O and instant pudding and Mr. Potato Head and all that. So it's got a lighthearted touch, but then it also does deal with interracial relationships because they do end up falling in love. And during the 50s, that was extremely frowned upon. It's like, oh, what is going on? This is not. Even his family was kind of like, what are you doing? Why don't you find a quote unquote good girl or whatever? Right. And it's a great performance by Whoopi Goldberg also. She kind of anchors the film because she kind of has to, kind of solve the problem with the child missing a mother. Mm-hmm. But then also these two fall in love. And again, it's just a different look from Ray Liotta playing a father who's trying to kind of help his daughter along, but he's dealing with his own grief, because the wound is so fresh from the wife dying. So he's dealing with it with his own grief. Yeah. But his daughter is in pain as well, and he's not really addressing her pain because he's having trouble dealing with his. And they eventually kind of get to the point where they can kind of start to talk about it and kind of talk about their mother. He didn't want to, he was really closed off, and Whoopi Goldberg kind of comes in and, and there's a lot of great scenes, but there's one really great scene towards the end of the film where Karina, Whoopi Goldberg, she's like the housekeeper. Yeah. But, they start having her over for dinner and she start, they listen to records together and, all these things start happening. And then he's late. He's like running late for work and he put his jacket on and, like the collar's not upright. So Whoopi Goldberg is like fixing the collar. Yeah. And then they kiss each other goodbye, like instinctively, like you would if it was your wife. And then they both stop and they kind of like, what did we just do? Because it was not like that instinct. And there was another scene where they're eating dinner and the daughter's like doing something and Ray's like, listen to your mother. Mm-hmm. And it was just a throwaway line that you almost don't catch, but the daughter kind of caught it. And then she was smiling because she really likes Karina. So it was kind of just a great film.
Sweet film.
It deals with a serious subject, but it's really got a light
so familiar. It sounds so familiar. I probably did see it a long time ago.
Definitely recommend
it. You describing when he was a jingle writer, right. I think those scenes come to mind.
Who says you shouldn't have instant pudding? You got to listen for that just to hear him singing a Jell-O song. AELLO. Yeah, that's about as much as you're going to get from me as far as so I would definitely recommend that. And again, just a small amount of films we're picking here just shows you the depth. He's also done voice work for cartoons. He was on SpongeBob SquarePants. He was on The Simpsons. He was on Family Guy as well. Yeah. He did video game work, Grand Theft Auto, which is a gigantic series for
And
Xbox and
apparently
PlayStation.
it's one of the favored roles. Apparently,
Yeah,
he's very, very popular in that
yeah.
realm.
So
Yeah.
so he
So
not only did that, and then he started getting back into TV, because that was one of the things too, right? Is like, when you're an actor, you don't do TV, especially if you're able to break out of that.
yeah,
Started
yeah,
doing guest spots, Frasier, Just Shoot Me,
yeah,
ER. He was actually on Hannah Montana as well.
yeah.
So just all this,
That
just kind of.
performance on ER I think he won an Emmy for that performance. If I'm not mistaken, it was because it was so good. I remember that episode.
Mhm.
Because he wasn't just like in it for like five. He was in it the whole time, and it was one of those episodes where I think it was in real time,
Mhm.
where he's actually dying, like, and they have to, and he goes from being like really like a real jerk to everybody to like by the end of it, he's just changed, and it's just,
Hopefully.
oh my god, you need the Kleenex next to that one. I distinctly remember that. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Usually when you're typecast as a tough guy or a heavy,
Yeah,
hard to break out of that, or you lean into it, right? You
you
kind
lean
of you
into it,
kind of
but
go into it,
a tough guy with
because that'll
heart,
that'll give you a career.
a tough guy that's not afraid to show some emotion. That's
Yeah.
what I like. I like when people kind of break through that barrier, and are able to do that. And he was very able to do that. Because like I said, he could have gotten typecasted, and he probably did in a lot of these, like we talked about, a lot of these films. Like he did appear as this guy. Like they wanted him in Rat Pack because he wanted to play Frank Sinatra, and
Well, he
he's like,
didn't want to at first.
no, he didn't. He's like,
Yeah, he's
I
like,
don't
how
look any.
am I going to play Frank Sinatra? This was an HBO. This is back when HBO was really big into like making
Yeah,
HBO movies, and people would go crazy for them. So they were going to do a Rat Pack film,
yeah.
and they're like, "Ray, we want you to play Frank Sinatra." He's like, "What?"
He
Like,
goes, I don't
no,
sing like him. I don't look like him. I don't know what you're
yeah, like
thinking
why?
here.
Why me?
Yeah, and
Which is
apparently he was.
strange. But
This wasn't that wasn't the first time either. There was apparently something before that, the HBO thing. I think it was a TV special or something like that, or a mini series that they were looking to do about Frank Sinatra, and they asked him to do it. Then he's like, no way,
yeah,
no way.
I
So
don't
he was,
understand
yeah.
why.
But then he relented, and he did it, and it's odd, but
Yeah, like but and you know what? I think I saw an interview where he says, but you know what? I'm an actor, so it's a challenge.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what it is, and that's what I appreciate about him is, if you go look at interviews, he takes the craft seriously.
yeah.
He really does, and he talks about the passion for acting,
Hmm.
and how he does look at each role and try and find out what the triggers are or what the character is. Which gave me a whole new respect, because it's easy when you see somebody so prolific to think, okay, yeah, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But he was very prolific, especially towards the end of his career. But what do you have for your third
I'm
one?
kind of on the fence, but I think I'm
Uh-oh.
going to go with. I was going to go with one, but I think I'm going to go with there was a little movie he did recently, in the last few years, A Marriage Story, where he plays a lawyer, a divorce lawyer.
Mhm.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it's such a small role,
Yeah.
but he's so good in it. It's like he's back. Like it's been a while since I think he's done he's done a few things, but this is like a feature. This was a Netflix
Yeah, it was
movie.
2019. Netflix or Amazon. It was one of those, right?
No, it was Netflix. It was Netflix,
Yeah.
and then Criterion picked it up for their DVDs. But
With Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver.
and Adam
were the
Driver,
stars.
and it's such a crazy, and it's another tearjerker, another But when he shows up, he gives it all his all, and the intensity of like he's really fighting because he's Adam Driver's lawyer, and he's just like really like going to war with Laura Dern, who plays Scarlett Johansson's lawyer.
Yeah.
So in the courtroom, the back and forth between the two and he just delivers so well. I mean, it's just the intensity, and it's just the fight in him, and he stands up like, what the hell, like he's just like, I love when he like gets like real like he starts yelling, and he's just it's like almost unhinged,
Yeah.
and he's because he's supposed to act that way as a lawyer, but
Mhm.
but then he just like like lawyers do. Like just, okay, it was just it's like a
Yeah.
more like an act kind of thing, but it's like,
part of the job.
part of the job, but it's
Yeah.
like he does it, and it was such a, again, very, very small role, but a memorable one.
Yeah.
And
And
these are the
the
roles
the other time he was in a courtroom in a film was Goodfellas, right? When he was
that's
addressing
right.
the camera from the
That's right.
I
Breaking
don't
that
know. I
fourth
don't know
wall.
nothing
Yeah.
about being no rat. Yes, you do, Mr. Hill. Because rats will do anything to survive.
I'm curious to see what your next choice will be, but
You should know what it is.
of course I know what it is.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's a little movie called, I think it's called Copland, right?
It is absolutely
That's
the
what
little
I call
movie that could, called Copland. Absolutely my favorite.
I know it's one
Probably
of your
my favorite
films.
performance. It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies of all time. So there's no way that it
Yeah.
wouldn't be one of my favorite Ray Liotta films of all
That's
time.
right.
And I will advocate anytime I talk to somebody about like, what's your favorite film? Copland is one of them.
Yeah.
And when you've got a cast as heavy
Yeah.
as the cast you have, this was first of all James Mangold, who now is known as he's just finished directing Indiana Jones 5.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Logan. He did 3:10 to Yuma. A lot of great films, but Copland was his second film. His first one was a film called Heavy, and then he wrote Copland. I don't know how a second director gets a cast with Robert De Niro, Sylvester Stallone, Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, Peter Berg, Robert Patrick, Janine Garofalo, Michael Rappaport, Annabella Sciorra, Noah Emmerich, Kathy Moriarty, John Spencer, Frank Vincent, Malik Yoba, Edie Falco, Paul Herman, Paul Calderon. This is a deep cast full of really heavy hitters.
Didn't Stallone have a lot to do with that though? Like bringing these heavies into it? Like wasn't it his idea for the story?
At first Mangold didn't want it that heavy because it was like he didn't want it. Like the idea of wrangling all these stars was kind of that could be intimidating.
Sure.
So if you and Ray Liotta's role is really it's kind of one of the more interesting roles because the movie's about a bunch of dirty cops.
Yeah.
That live outside of New York City. So because of a loophole, they don't have to live in the city and there's all these dirty dealings going on. This was a return. Even though Sylvester Stallone considered this a miss in his career, this was kind of a dramatic role at a time when people were kind of thinking he was a joke, stop my mom or my mom will shoot.
Yeah.
He was doing Oscar. He was doing like those kind of crappy movies. And then they get him in, he gains 40 pounds for this role to play a small town sheriff who's in charge of the town where all these cops live, but is really powerless.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray Liotta's character is one of the cops, but he's an undercover cop. And he's kind of, he certainly ain't clean, but he desires that. He desires to kind of cut free,
cut loose from the beat. Yeah.
So very ambiguous character. He's not he's stealing cocaine. He's stealing evidence. He ends up burning down his own house to kind of get out from under and ends up killing his girlfriend by accident. She ends up burning and, dying in the house because she wasn't supposed to be there. He's always like sweaty. He always looks like he's got
that wild hair. He looks like he's really on the edge.
Yeah, wearing like loose clothing all the time, just undercover cop type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they need, even if his role is smaller, you need somebody that can go, because he's got scenes with Harvey Keitel. He only has one scene with De Niro. It's at the very end. Yeah. Oddly enough, his Goodfellas compatriot, but he's got a lot of scenes with Harvey Keitel, and Harvey Keitel, you got to come correct also. You can't,
that's right.
He's as good or better than De Niro. He's as good or better as Pacino.
He's one of the major players. Let's put it that way. Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't get the recognition, but when you put him with De Niro and Copland and Robert Patrick, he's just got all these people that you've got to be a part of that, and getting Ray Liotta was like a big win, because that just like upped. If that was like a no name or somebody else, I don't think it would have been as compelling. But getting Ray Liotta in there to kind of dance with these guys, he can go toe to toe with Harvey Keitel acting. And there's a great scene when they're in the bar when they're talking about acknowledging that that they got all these phony loans for these houses, and Ray Liotta feels like he's being shut out of everything now, and because these other dirty cops are kind of taking his place. So powerful film. And then at the end, at the very end, when he leaves, he goes, "I'm leaving. I'm getting out of this place. I had enough of you."
That's right.
And there's one scene where he's driving and he's he's like driving and leaving Jersey, and he's looking in the rearview mirror, and he's like, would you shut the hell up? Because it's like his conscience is like talking to him, like he can't
Yeah.
get out of his
Yeah, he's
own
got
mind.
some
Like, "Will you
demons.
shut
Yeah.
the hell up?" And then he kind of shows up at the end to kind of he redeems himself.
Yeah.
He kind of comes back. He kind of helps Stallone kind of clean up the town.
Yeah.
It's just a great.
It's
I walked
it's
out
a
of that
winner.
movie like with a big smile on my face. I'm
I
like,
don't
this
know.
is what movies should be.
I don't know why, it really, there's not too much talk about it.
No.
You turned me onto this film. I was like, you got to see this movie.
Yeah.
And I finally did. And I was like, man, yeah, how can any, I mean, maybe it's just, it was overkill of that kind of thing. But I remember distinctly that Stallone, he didn't get any money for it, right? He didn't want any money for it.
I'm not sure.
As I recall. It was like, he was like, I want to do like this, because it was considered like a kind of an independent type film.
Budget
right?
was
very
only
small.
$15 million
small.
budget.
Yeah.
For those guys, they had to be working for scale.
Yeah.
Because the cast goes even deeper. I mean, I can give you the who's who of like character actors, but all the ones I rattled off those are like big name characters. And then you got a lot of these other New York actors that you see, like the character actors,
Sure. Yeah.
guys that play cops or actually guys that play mobsters. And this one are playing cops. So you already get the dirt, you already know that they're corrupt.
Faces that
exactly.
You would know. Absolutely.
Guys that you would later see on The Sopranos, like Paul Herman, the late Paul Herman, who recently passed away as well. He played Beansy in The Sopranos. He was the lawyer. He was the fake lawyer in American Hustle. He was the coke dealer in Goodfellas. Yep. Oh, Karen, you want to see helicopters? I got that guy's everywhere. So you get all these great character actors and you put them into these films, and it just kind of it makes the world come alive. And Ray Liotta was so just, he's got great scenes with Sylvester Stallone when he's talking about being a cop.
Yeah.
And he just enhances it. You get him in there, and he just.
I definitely think it's one of Sly's best performances myself.
Oh, absolutely.
To say that this was a miss, I don't know. I don't know what you did good in this film. I mean, his acting I thought was phenomenal.
Well, I think he thought the movie was going to do better. I think he thought, oh, this is going to really kind of, with this cast, like how are you going to miss? Yeah. And it made like 63 mil. I mean, it didn't do horrible. Yeah. But but I mean, before this, he did like Judge Dredd and Daylight and that kind of stuff. So and this kind of stands out.
He was churning out the big blockbuster like kind of stuff. He's still doing the Rocky films. It was
getting over the top,
of course.
Except for The Specialist. I like The Specialist in '95 with him and Sharon Stone and Eric Roberts.
I like that, and I like
Rod Steiger.
I'll go even further. I actually liked Assassins.
Him and Antonio Banderas.
That's right. I really like that film. Yeah. That was the guy that did Lethal Weapon, right?
What, the director?
Yeah, Richard Donner did that.
Oh,
Assassins. Yeah, I thought that was a great film.
Yeah, that was 95. Yeah, and the screenplay was by the Wachowskis. Oddly enough,
wasn't it? Yeah,
and Julianne Moore was in that.
That's right. It was one of her first roles.
She was still, I mean, she was, So someone who also has a great agent is Julianne Moore, because somehow she got like third billing in The Fugitive, and she's got like three, literally. And
her part was supposed to be a lot bigger.
It's like three lines.
Supposed to be, kind of like the love interest. I think.
You like looking at X-rays? That was like one of her lines, and then she had two more. Like "Don't go anywhere" was the third line, and then "I'm tired. Can I go home now?"
Right.
So she's got it. Julianne Moore has a great agent that secured that third billing for a movie that she was barely in, but.
The other choice that I had would have been Narc
with Jason Patrick.
Joe Carnahan. That was an intense movie where he plays a cop, and he's not a bad cop in it. He's just really obsessed and really over the edge and just real. I mean, I mean, and of course, anytime you see Jason Patrick too, I always loved him, but he really
fell
wasn't
off, unfortunately.
He did. He did that movie Geronimo. This was after.
Mm-hmm. And after Rush, also Rush.
I loved Rush. That was such a great film. Like, what the hell happened to the guy? And then and he shows up in this. And this Joe Carnahan was a up and comer. I think this was only like his second film or something too. But again, a considerable cast, and it was just a really intense thriller. I really enjoyed this film. But that would have been the other choice. But I kind of wanted to go, to do something without the the stigma of the cop, the intense cop, or anything to do with the dirty side of law, or that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you could absolutely. I mean, I didn't count
he's
the amount
good
of
at it.
films he's done, but you could. I mean, you could if you wanted to, you could cherry pick and say, yeah, he's been because he did the show Shades of Blue.
Yeah,
The
where he's
what was it
dirty
the
cop.
Place Beyond the Pines? He was
Yeah.
a dirty cop in that, but that was like a creepy. Did you ever see that?
I did not.
Oh my god, it's a
missed
really
that one.
long
Yeah.
film, but it's almost like two films in one. Half of it is like with Bradley Cooper, and then the other half.
I heard good things though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is with his name escapes me. God, oh man, senior moment.
That's okay.
No, I need it.
Oh, he's got to look it. He's got to look it up.
I got to look it up. It's The Place Beyond the Pines.
Place.
Oh God, you're gonna slap me when I tell you who it is. It's
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Why couldn't I think of his name? That's horrible.
Bradley Cooper. Oh,
Ben
Mendelsohn.
Two films, like half of it was about Ryan Gosling and his story. The other half was about Bradley Cooper.
Dane DeHaan, who was
Dane DeHaan was the Green Goblin and in this or the
Spider-Man.
Harry Osborn Green Goblin.
Eva Mendes. Yep.
Yeah, so it was
Really
check that one out. Really
2
strange
hours
film.
and 20 minutes. Yeah.
Strange film, but I got to go back. The light side of Ray Liotta. Like I said, he was he was the leader of the Bubble Poppin' Boys, the gang in SpongeBob SquarePants, where SpongeBob is kind of blowing bubbles in the city, and his activity activates the bubble squad, the bubble gang to come because the bubbles would be blinding people. So they outlawed bubble popping in the city.
Yeah.
So Ray Liotta is like the leader of the gang, and they're like the fish, and they're like SpongeBob is blowing the bubbles, and the gang is like walking down the alley towards him, and he's like, we're the leader. No one blows bubbles in this city, So he had those lighthearted moments, and especially something
I should have had my son and daughter on with me with this one because they love that show. I never got it. I don't know. I'm sorry, but
SpongeBob is great.
It is. You know what? I love the movie. When the first movie came out.
To me, it was an extension of Ren and Stimpy. Like
David Hasselhoff.
The humor was like not as intense and not as like adult oriented as Ren and Stimpy, but it was
enough though. It was edgy enough.
It was kind of they brought it down a little bit, but a lot of the same artwork when they would have like a still frame of a close up and it would be like a craggly hand or something.
Right.
That was in Ren and Stimpy. When I was watching SpongeBob, I'm like, they're getting a lot of that aesthetic there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the great Clancy Brown is Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob. So he was in the sequel to Sin City. So yeah, Ray Liotta, such a prolific guy, such a great actor, and it's unfortunate that we ended up doing an episode after his passing, but when he did pass, I thought it was, we both thought it was an opportunity.
How can we not? Because and
it was the right time to pay tribute to this.
You could, and this, I don't think this is going to be a thing, but unfortunately, because he passed so unexpected, it was a shock. So and we he is one of our favorite actors, so we felt we wanted to do him.
Yeah, we wanted to pay tribute to someone.
Love and pay tribute to him.
A lot of our favorite films, and again, like a lot of stuff that we haven't seen. So we're not portraying that we're the do all and end all and have his filmography, but
right.
You've seen him in enough things, and he's just done enough, and it's so varied, and that's the thing, is for a guy like him who has the looks of a gangster and could do that, just continue to play against type, continue to look for roles that would challenge him and do so, and not afraid to make fun of, right? Not afraid to be on The Simpsons, not afraid to be on Family Guy, kind of do those guest spots and have fun with it, and enjoy the art or the craft of acting, no matter what it was. Video games too. A lot of actors. Oh, I want to do a video game. He did the voiceover. It became an iconic thing in video game history of him doing Grand Theft Auto series. So
apparently his partner. I don't know if they were married.
No, they were. It was a fiance.
Yeah, she said nothing but like they just laughed all the time. He had such a great sense of humor. There was no ego. He was a really good guy, and it's such a tragedy. Such a loss.
He also did Call of Duty. He did a voice for Call of Duty, which is another big video game series. One of my favorite video game series is Call of Duty. So he did that too. Yeah. Not afraid to do that kind of stuff. He was in Young Sheldon. So again, the guy I get the impression that he loved acting.
He
You
did.
know, that's the thing. Like I said, big filmography, but I don't get the impression it was paycheck.
it
I
never
mean, obviously you
felt
got to eat to live, but
it never felt like it was an effort for him either, I might add. I mean, if you watch his performance, they just come off so natural and so.
Yeah.
I remember that. What was that other one he did with Kurt Russell and Madeline Stowe? Where
Unlawful Entry, which was going to be on my list. He was the bad cop. He was the psycho cop in that one.
Oh my God, yeah.
And he was after Madeline Stowe. He was really like obsessed with her. And Kurt Russell was in his good guy phase of after he did like Breakdown, right? Where he was like
that
good guy.
he was the reason I saw that film. I saw that in the theater because it was after Goodfellas, and I loved him. You know, so. Yeah, it's like, but I didn't expect him to be such a, you know, and it was a nice turn. It was a really cool, like, again, very different role.
Because he did Goodfellas in 90. In 92, he did 2 films. He did Article 99, where he played a doctor.
Yeah.
And then he did Unlawful Entry.
Yeah.
You know, and then I mean, he's got a thing for doing multiple films in a year, because in 94, he did No Escape and Karina, which you couldn't have 2 diametrically opposed roles again. So it's not like he's saying, hey, get me, you know, the guy that is always this, or get me the guy just doing different things, you know. And I gotta appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, the year with Blow it was Heartbreakers and Hannibal. You couldn't get 3 different,
right.
You know, Hannibal was just kind of a depressing, creepy film. And the fact that he showed up and it was like, it was like kind of like a bonus.
Course. You see his name in the credits, or even if you don't see it, but it's even better when you don't, you know, when he's not in the credits, or if they don't have any credits in the beginning of a film, and then he shows up and it's like, oh, he's in this, you know, like, you know, it's always a pleasure to see him.
Yeah. And then
I don't think there was ever a role where I didn't like him, where it's like, he just, you know, was horrible, or I'm sure there were films that he didn't do as well or whatever like that, but I was never disappointed to see him. Never like, you know.
Oh yeah, when you always got
tired of him.
Ray Liotta, you know, there's always a smile on your face. And that's going to do it for this look back at some of our favorite performances from one of our favorite actors, Ray Liotta. If you've got a favorite performance that we didn't talk about, find us on social media at 3324 Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Share your favorite performance from Ray Liotta. We would absolutely love to hear it. So, for Eric, this has been Dean. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you real soon.
You've been listening to the 3324 Podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 Podcast and on Twitter at 3324P to join the conversation.